Hello everyone! My mom and I just watched Europa Report yesterday. I probably would have waited to talk about it until I released my What Else I Saw in June video, but it's going to be leaving Prime on June 30th. So I thought I'd review it before then, in case anyone else wanted to catch it before it was gone. Granted, the way these things often go, it might only be off Prime for like a month or two, and then it'll be back on there, but there's no way of knowing. Europa Report is a science fiction film from 2013 directed by Sebastián Cordero and written by Philip Gelat. When signs of probable life are detected under the icy surface of Europa, Jupiter's smallest moon, the first manned mission to deep space is launched to investigate. But on their journey to discover if life really does exist out there, the international crew of 6 encounters trouble. I really liked this. It's a serious space travel misadventure. It's kind of slow in a way, but not that slow. It's tense. I found it a little scary, mainly because it's concerned with two things that make me very uneasy: deep space and deep water, so it wasn't hard for this movie to put me on edge. Something that separates it from similar films in the genre is that it's presented like a documentary or a special program airing on TV about this ill-fated mission. From the beginning, you know something really bad happened on this trip, and what you're seeing is footage recovered and pieced together after the fact, taken from cameras that were posted all over the interior and exterior of the spacecraft. It follows a non-linear narrative. It begins in the middle of the mission, then goes back to the beginning and shows the launch, jumps forward to the present and advances the story a bit, then goes back and fills us in some more. This is a bit overwhelming at first. There's a lot of information delivered very fast. I found myself thinking, oh man, is this one of those movies that you have to watch twice in order to understand it? But all of that information and rapid-fire pacing helps pull you in, and it doesn't take long to get the hang of things. You figure out what clues to pick up on to differentiate between time periods and so on. Interspersed with footage from the mission are clips from a press conference, interviews, launch footage, all of it quite authentic looking. There are also a few cutaways where characters address the camera. If I didn't know better, I'd think Dan Fogler was a real scientist explaining what happened to the Europa 1 on the Discovery Channel. There's really only a handful of people in this movie, and no big star as the main focus, which I think works. The 6 members of the mission team interact well and are working on an equal plane. I like that there is no hothead character who's losing his temper, there's no one causing drama, there are no relationship shenanigans. Everybody is professional, competent, and cool under pressure. The film does acknowledge the strain of such a long separation from home for those with families, but there's also the camaraderie of a team that's been cloistered together for many, many months, becoming pals and making the most of an unusual situation. It's a solid international cast, and like I said, there's no single individual that's the headliner. I do want to give a shout out to Sharlto Copley, though. I've seen him in a few things now, and I'm impressed by his range. His zany character was my favorite in that wacky A-Team movie I talked about a couple months ago, and his voice work as the robot in Chappie, which I talked about a couple years ago, was phenomenal. He's probably most known for starring in District 9. I did see that, it was a long time ago, and quite frankly, what happened with his character made me feel queasy, so I kind of blocked it out. In this, he's kind of the fun guy on the crew, the life of the party who lifts everyone else's spirits. But then, one of the most emotionally challenging sequences in the film rests primarily on his shoulders, and he does great. If you want to know where this movie falls on the sci-fi movie scale between glacial-paced philosophical science fiction and pew-pew-pew blowing up aliens science fiction, it's somewhere in the middle, leaning more toward the former, but it's not uppity or inaccessible or anything like that. This isn't one of those Things where it's like, this is smart science fiction, only the smart people will be able to understand this. It's a tense drama with enough suspenseful sequences to make it qualify as a thriller, and the tone suggests that it's like a thriller. But calling it a thriller in some people's minds is like putting it in the pew 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 category, and this is not a pew 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 film. It's small in the sense that it's just a few characters in an isolated, almost claustrophobic setting, but we're also dealing with the vastness of outer space, and you never lose sight of that. The film keeps everything in perspective. And it keeps things moving, really. It moves fast, with a lot of camera angles, quick cuts, multiple views on screen at once at times. It's not the kind of movie that you're gonna watch it and be like, ah, whiplash, but you do need to pay attention. The visuals and effects are well done. This wasn't a huge studio release, so it's pretty modest, I'd say, in terms of budget, but I think it looks really good. Are the graphics and visuals realistic? I don't know, but it sure looks convincing. As impressive as the overall design and execution is, though, it was actually a couple more simple shots that struck me, and they're similar. They both feature someone looking out a window. One is a shot where a character has been capturing day-to-day life in the spaceship with a video camera, and we're watching the footage that he shot. He turns to the window to show off the view, and at first we don't see anything but blackness. But then, slowly, the camera adjusts and the image clarifies, while the window still reflects the camera lens and the person behind it. The gradualness of that transition, while still keeping the character in view as well, was technically very smooth. But it's also a moment that conveys the beauty and wonder and inspiration that view holds for these astronauts. The other image, again, has a character looking out a window, and this time the screen is divided between her reflection, doubled because the window is double-paned, and on the other side of the frame we see what she's looking at. It's simple, but I found it aesthetically pleasing and memorable. And probably a lot of thought and time went into creating both of these shots. Now, this movie does make a certain decision with regard to showing something, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. In my limited view of sci-fi and horror filmmaking, you have a couple options when you've got a mysterious thing. One, show next to nothing and let the audience use their imagination based on the power of suggestion. Risk disappointing everybody who was waiting for a big reveal. Two, show the thing clearly, no hiding in shadows or mists or anything like that, and give it at least a few minutes of prominent screen time. Risk the inevitable criticism that your design isn't scary enough, original enough, whatever. In actuality, there are more than just those two options, and how the thing is handled, in the end, usually has a lot to do with money. I think if you've got the money and the talent that's come up with an impeccable creature design, go big. Make it really awesome and detailed, and let it be a focal point in your movie. If you don't have a lot of money, or you haven't come up with a fresh novel idea, or maybe it wasn't your intention to show much of anything, but some producer came along and was like, "Hey, what's this? we need, hey, what is this? I want to see a thing. Come on, this is a sci-fi movie. I want something." I don't know what that voice is. Maybe just hint at something. Give the audience a quick and fascinating taste that'll leave them wondering about what they saw after the movie's over. This movie chooses the more minimal approach, and I think it works. However, it slightly undermines itself by showing footage multiple times. Considering what it is, I would have only shown it once, maybe twice, because by the third time, it started to become too familiar. The first time, it was a big climactic moment, and I was startled and surprised. The second time, it was like, oh, we got another look, great. The third time, I started to evaluate and critique and say, it's basically just redacted. And I was expecting something a little more wild, crazy, different, I don't know. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go from feeling wowed to feeling critical. So personally, I would have shown even less. But that's just me. Have I kept this part vague enough? I don't want to give anything away. One extra note, I saw at the end that the music was done by Bear McCreary. Moreover, I saw that they gave credit to all the musicians. That was really nice. Usually the members of the orchestra are not listed in the film's credits, but here there's a page for the violins, a page for the cellos, and so on. So all those musicians could call home and say, "Hey Ma, go watch this movie! My name's in the credits!" Unfortunately, the titles are very fast, so if your kid worked on this movie, don't blink or you might miss their name, but at least the font is delightfully legible. More and more I'm starting to appreciate crisp, bold title fonts. This must be a sign that I'm getting older. And, you can pause the movie. We actually did that. The cast list went by so quick that we were like, hey, what? So I went back and paused it. So I liked this one. It's intelligent, but also intense. It's creative and features complex storytelling, but also makes a concerted effort to stay grounded in reality. I recommend it if you're a sci-fi space fan and you've never seen it before. If you have seen it before, you can share what you thought of it in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon. Thanks for watching.